So I'm going to read mostly from just one project that I'll talk about, but first I'm going to read from Sonia's notebook. She's been getting really into writing in notebooks lately. We've been reading this picture book called Walt Whitman, Words for America, that I bought at the Library of Congress when I was there a long time ago, and they had this amazing Walt Whitman exhibit. Anyway, it's a kid's book that she really likes, and in it he has notebooks and he's writing. So she's been doing a lot of writing, so I told her I'd read some of what she's been writing. So this is from last night. We're sneaking out to SEIUI to get labels and a witch costume. But if we have black hands, then we have to get our hat off and put it in the stroller. Very proud of you for that writing. So this project I'm going to read from is, it's called The Great American Beat Jack, Volume 1, and it's these record poems that are sort of spiraled, and they're 7 inches, like old 45s, and it's getting published in a set of 10 records soon by Dana Ward's Perfect Lovers Press in Cincinnati. I think there's actually a release party for it next week. So I'm going to read 3 poems from this series, and each of them takes the meter from a different poem and rewrites the poem rewrites the poem into that meter, and then kind of cross-fades the content with whatever the B side is. So the A side of this first one is Anne Bradstreet's "Here Follows Some Verses Upon the Burning of Our House, July 10th, 1666, which I am going to read. And then the B side is Juicy by the Notorious B.I.G., which I'm not going to read, but it's good. And so we'll start with Anne Bradstreet. And it's in iambic tetrameter, so you'll probably hear that. Were you unbroken by the night, when it was all a dream to read in Word Up magazine, to burn, to feed your family? Just try to feed your daughter, Heavy D up in the limousine. The red and black, let's ride all night, let's ride, until the sun will burn our eyes, the flame consume our dwelling place. You had a goal, remember that? I made the change. Uncommon thief, so silent, turned uncounted things to ash. Some numbered sheets, a list of needs to seek and own. If you don't know, go learn. I made the change, but still it burns. One Oakland night, or many Oakland nights, we watched the corporate stores go up in flames. The massing crowd, untethered names like arrows pointing at themselves. Like history, like language, like, damn right, we like this life. We went from positive to negative. To all the people calling cops above the buildings, Twitter feeds will sing your spot and blow it up, so watch your back. The struggle day to day is making meaning in new forms. Until tapes pop, this crossed or faded time of ours is strange. Interstitches accumulate and spin, and we think back on one-room shacks, ablaze and sending sparks into the early stolen night. And if you don't know, now you know. Involuntary property destruction, said the paint. The fire came later. Status update said, you hear? I wasn't. Need to feed my daughter. Listing all my fears as though to write and sever word from body. Cut in 94 or 82. Explain my needs in Sonia's toddling terms. Spread love the Oakland way, in burning blocks that sculpt the day's maquette against the stars. Do you know very well just who you are? Unbroken night, unfolding beings, settling like a mink upon our backs, we reach for sounds in moments in between. When by the ruins oft we passed, we couldn't picture this, to feed the burning dream, a nation's song. So that was written during the Oscar Grant riots. These next two were written more recently, and the A-side is Walt Whitman's "When Lilacs Last in the Dooryard Bloomed," and the B-side is "By the Time I Get to Arizona," which is Chuck Ridnour's meter, but it's Public Enemy is the song. And the B-side is from when I took Sonia to Oscar Grant Plaza. But I'm just going to read both of these back to back. And that'll be it. Alright, so "When Lilacs Last in the Dooryard Bloomed." Oh, helpless soul of me, I would bloom. Though we tangle in the Saturdays, Mondays seem on iPhone screens. Well, no, I am not sure these replastered walls need replastering. Wet over wet, wet under the wet, plaster blooming with mold and rot. And driving far to the west, the daily blooming rot. Okay, I still dream of human conversation, true, that talk of changing days. But when I got to Arizona, sitting on the tarred murk of I-10, those cruel miles that held me powerless, oh helpless soul of me, the harsh surrounding cloud of suburbs, blooming rot, yuck, the shit of plaster or whatever, all this drywall dies a nauseous, splaying blob, towering, these heart-shaped boxes, empty and sitting there in the desert sun like holiday shops closed, parking lots cold. So every leaf's a miracle, but seeing those long ribbons of wasted sand, dead flowers, I break. Serious, tentacled, indebted kids who wither in the strips of eyes we have left, they toll out of the throat of cities. They hope to themselves that someone will notice it, how they might sound anew. Song of the bleeding throat, of districts where the tissues blown apart litter the ground, gray debris of the waste, action in a void. But no, the tassels of knotted, conversant people who love love, who dance together, laying awake with babies, call out to the unformed hours. O Lilac Dawn, O my ancestors, let me bloom. Poets to come, O you, who are all captains each, sing. And our grain from its shroud in the Capitol uprises, blasting the land we got, kicking blows of pink and black, sounding deserts real and not, slams the racist rot of our huts strewn and mute, shitstorms of plaster, rhythms and histories, burn them down. Together fall and together spring America, occupied by the birds in plazas, by dead friends draped in noise, by shadows of the bodies opened, of hearts to hold, O future. Okay. So this is by the time I get to Arizona. And it owes a lot to Dana Ward, who's publishing this project, whose writing these days I just am glued to, truthfully, in its kind of conversational tone, although it's still 4 beats per line. But yeah, and I should say too that Brenda Hillman, who is here, one of these poems in this series is from a poem of hers, and I wish I had that one here today, because I like that one too. But anyway, this is By the Time I Get to Arizona. By the time we got to occupy Oakland, Sonia was tired and we passed "fuck racist pig" signs and a small meeting about the amount of illegal drug use and a teach-in about the local history of black resistance. Oscar Grant Plaza wavered in that scary place between nightmare and utopia that is probably what all revolutions feel like. Sonia used purple glitter paint to make a picture or a kite for Alma that we forgot, then got her face painted, and this dude was a real asshole to his daughter in the kids' tent, so we left. I don't think he was comfortable as a caretaker or something. The kids' tent woman said if the anarchists wanted to argue about fighting the cops, they could come find her. Lots of pit bulls and gutter punks. Neither party's mine, so we walked across the pallets knitting tents and found the library to donate the Anarchical Society and Paracon Life After Capitalism and the Marx Engels Reader and Globalize This and a brief history of neoliberalism and some issues of Withstand and Try and Armed Cell, as well as my first menorah. Sonia wanted to contribute too. People talked to each other a lot and on cell phones a lot, it seemed. Lots of local poets are going later for assemblies after Lauren Levine organized a Google group to coordinate doings. a reading Sunday, some zine making later tonight. David Brazil's Gazette is a rallying point and Lara Durbach's tent. I emailed with Tom Donovan about going down to Wall Street to be a body in opposition to Bloomberg's eventually postponed cleaning of the square, and I told him I'd be scared, but I'd go with him if I was out there. And I kept listening for the rhythm as I stood holding Sonia's hand, and I heard E40 sprinkle me big tima, and I was scared and saddened and excited all at once, in uncertainty. Looking down at Sonia, I whispered to her, "Praise be the fathomless universe for endless beginnings and not knowing their ends." Thanks.